Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I wanted to talk about a poem that has spoken to me as of late. It is a poem about infanticide. I am referring to Am I Going to Kill My Daughter by Ray Rose. Now, before you say, Mr. Nothing, this doesn't sound like a reasonable poem. Infanticide is nothing to joke about. Yes, I agree, and so does the author of this poem. For those who don't know, Ray Rose is, I believe, an American poet. I haven't been able to find a lot of information about them. It's possible they just uploaded their own poem to the Poetry Foundation website that I frequent. But other than that, I've been able to find mixed sources. The link to their website on the Poetry Foundation pulls up nothing. It says it's under construction. There is another person named Ray Rose who is apparently a Mayan and a Japanese, a person of Mayan and Japanese descent, and they've been writing poetry for quite some time about native topics and family and those such things. But I don't really know who Ray Rose is specifically, as not a lot of information. They might be a fairly newer poet, and that makes a lot of sense, as not every poet is going to necessarily be from the 1800s. And so without further ado, let's talk about this very fascinating poem. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. Am I going to kill my daughter? 1. I am a beloved holy city surrounded by barbed wire. My tribe protects me, offers me advice. 2. I watched the Casey Anthony trial religiously before my stroke. The night before brain surgery, I watched in my hospital bed. Nurses offered funny movies to watch instead, but no. 3. Years later, some woman on Facebook puts on insanely detailed blue eye makeup and tells the story of the Casey Anthony trial. I can't stop watching. By the end, when she is done with her makeup, I'm shaking. By the end, I'm far gone. If it could happen to this healthy girl, surely it could happen to Little Miss Bipolar 1 with rapid cycling and panic disorder. 4. Suicidal ideation blooms wildly throughout my brain until it is all I think of, stealing all other thoughts. 5. I have to tell everyone I'm suicidal-ish. It stays with me like a fever as I text, talk, explain I looked up how much Ambien to overdose on. I'm scared that if I'm not 100% honest, I will unravel without anyone noticing. I'll leave a note that says I'm a burden and slip away. 6. Casey didn't use a bullet. It was quieter than all that. It was chloroform. It was probably an accident. 7. Crawling through petals, my 3-year-old takes deep breaths and we sigh, ah, on one of our many walks. She touches her nose and I say nose. She touches her mouth and I say mouth. I'm smitten with this girl. I miss her when she goes to bed. 8. But the baby. Is it possible I could go mad and do something horrendous? I've gone very mad before. And so that was Am I Going to Kill My Daughter by Ray Rose. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit worth talking about with this poem. The first thing worth noting is it isn't structured like your traditional line-by-line poem. It's written in prose form, like I've talked about with some other poems on this channel before. Specifically, it's written as a list of eight items, kind of detailing what the narrator might be thinking as they're talking about these items, sort of in a logic sort of way. Like, yeah, sure, like Casey Anthony thing happened, and Casey Anthony talked about how, or like the person talked about how it was an accident, it could happen to anyone, and then this person talks about like their suicidal ideation, their mental health, and their daughter, and how they're worried that this could happen to them, that something could go wrong with them, whether it be depression or anxiety or their suicidal ideation. It could lead them to potentially kill their daughter, and I really think that's interesting, because it could, like, for someone who's depressed or anxious, like, this list of thoughts could come piling down, and it helps to write them out, because it might help to see how like illogical they can be, or not really founded in reality. That this could progress to the death of your daughter by your own hands. But it could also, highlight your worries and just exacerbate those worries. So it helps to do it with a counselor, with a trained therapist who's able to navigate this kind of thing with you. I also like the language that Ray Rose uses in this poem. She says, "I am a beloved holy city surrounded by barbed wire," which is a very fascinating way to, describe yourself. Kind of majestic, but also surrounded in barbed wire, like troubled. Things aren't so great as they could be. Like there's something wrong, like not that's hindering you from being your greatest. She also says, "Suicidal ideation blooms wildly through my brain until it is all I think of, stealing all other thoughts." And that's pretty much how mental illness works, especially with depression and whatnot. Like if you're depressed, that's all you're going to be able to think about. Thoughts of how you aren't good enough, or thoughts of how everyone doesn't like you. And even if you're trying to think of other things, it's going to get in the way. And so, like through the use of these words, of the way that she writes the poem, you're able to get inside the narrator's head and get a feel for what's going on. And it doesn't seem to be a good time, because they're dealing with this depression and anxiety, and anxiety about the anxiety because of what it could possibly lead to, and how much they love their daughter, and they're worried that, like, oh my goodness, if like this could be an accident and I could kill my daughter. Like, am I going to kill my daughter? It's a question. And what's also interesting is the narrator says, like, I'm telling everyone about this. I'm telling everyone, I'm telling everyone I'm suicidal-ish. It stays with me as a fever as I text, talk, explain I looked up how much Ambien to overdose on. And that's really relatable, because, if you don't talk about it, like if you don't say out loud what you're feeling, it could swallow you up. And I've been there before, especially when my father died. Maybe not to this extent, of course, but I've had to talk about the sadness and whatnot, what I'm going through. Because if you don't share it with other people, if you don't speak it again, like it eats you up, it grabs hold of you, and it might not let go. And so being able to talk about this with someone and saying, these are my worries, it really helps, get it out there, and other people can help you and come into the situation and maybe prevent you from doing something that you might regret, or something like that. So I'm really fascinated by this poem for its different structure, for the fact that it talks about Casey Anthony, of all people, and the worries that I'm sure someone with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation might very realistically have. So it's a pretty high quality poem in that regard. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Am I Going to Kill My Daughter by Ray Rose. Pretty solid poem. I certainly hope that Ray Rose is able to get the help that she needs, in addition to being able to write this poem. But the fact that she was able to get this poem published shows that she was able to get some help as well. I do consider it a pretty good piece of feminist poetry, getting at a lot of the things that women go through but often aren't spoken. And if you speak about it, you're often viewed as weak or something like that. So I definitely recommend that you go out there and read it. Hopefully I'll be able to encounter more of Ray Rose in the future. I'll put a link to the poem in the description. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about the poem and the author if they don't already know. Feel free to join the Discord and have a conversation there as well. But until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and parental travels. Farewell.